The government has spent a lot of energy and time in putting together a foundation or infrastructure. But Mark Zuckerberg didn't say, hey, I need this and this and this and this, and I'm going to create Facebook. Right? So what is required is collaboration. The more you can collaborate, help, instruct, guide, participate, that's how we're going to develop this ecosystem. What is it? The tide, rising tide lifts all boats. But there's a big question that we have to ask ourselves, which is, so where are these boats going? We've got all this infrastructure. What are we doing with all this effort? The success of India is not whether we can produce a lot of stuff, I would argue. It's what are the outcomes? What are the outcomes? And what do we mean by outcomes? So you heard some statement, Ajay made a statement about IPR. IPR has to be India. We don't care, but IPR has to be India. What does that mean? It means that we have to build successful Indian-based companies. You also heard something from CDOT, like kind of exports stuff. Like we're importing electronics. What he's trying to say is we want to export electronics. So when we as investors look at the environment, we're interested, or we should be interested in India's success to be aligned with how many successful outcomes, successful companies, how much exports are we able to produce, instead of just randomly producing stuff. And I would argue that that's where India's not as effective as it can be. When I walked into the Telecom Council of Silicon Valley, the operators, some of you are service providers, they are instructing the universities and the startups what to produce because they cannot innovate. They're large companies. They cannot as efficiently innovate in-house as a university or college students or the startup ecosystem can. I'll give you an example of the number one telecom startup in the US from this environment. It's a duplex. It's an application that creates a full duplex on an antenna. Now, some of you producing consumer apps were like, what is that? Like, how does that help? It doubles the capacity in all the antennas deployed in the world, at least in the US. That's significant. And that was been instructed by the telecom providers. So the telecom providers are providing, hey, we need this outcome. And the outcomes are being produced. That specific company was produced in conjunction with a university, meaning the university was the Stanford. It happened to be Stanford, all right? The second thing is telecom operators, right? This is IoT, this is telecom service providers, are not just extending service out to the home or to 4G. We already know that. That's happening. It's going to blow India up. But they're looking at value-add services. And if you look at a lot of value-add services for telecom providers, they're all around security. Security around mobile apps. Security around BYOD, devices that you bring into a network or into an enterprise, because they need to find ways to generate more income or higher margin at the edge. So what is the significance of that? As you as startups, some of you are startups, you understand, like, you're producing stuff. The problem with that is you have to understand my viewpoint. My viewpoint is I want to make money, right? So how do I find a client, for example, who's willing to purchase a lot of your stuff? And what I can do is fund it so that it can eliminate the risk for that telecom provider to get the company from A to B. This is outcomes-based strategy. If you look at one of the most successful countries in outcomes-based investment or outcome-based startups, it's Israel. India and Israel were essentially given independence in the same year. And look at the impact Israel has had specifically through its investments and its success in technology. And why? You may think Israel is smarter, they have more money, or no. It's because all of their companies are being delivered by the IDF to defend against the black hole threat, which is attack from Egypt. So everything is telco, voice over IP, video, whatever else it is. So we must start looking at what, first of all, do we define success to be in India? For me, it's exits, successful exits, companies that are acquired by bigger companies or go public, exits. we can argue what that is. I strongly, firmly believe, I come from a business background, that it's not just about growth and GMV valuations. I believe strongly in growth and profitability and top-line revenue. These are critical outcomes as well. So if we can start to provide leadership, all of us provide leadership. This is not a 5-year game. This is a 30, 40-year, 50-year game. If we can start providing leadership, all of you, to how we look and start guiding our innovation, how we start mentoring it to be directed working backwards and forwards. Sometimes it's not just about working backwards. Sometimes you'll have a groundbreaking innovation that will fundamentally challenge the way that services are being delivered. For example, maybe you'll deliver 20G wireless network and leapfrog a 4G strategy. Yes, that's possible. So we need to look at, again, I would argue, outcomes-based execution, and really what separates Silicon Valley from what we're doing in India today, especially Gurgaon and Delhi, is significant ecosystem collaboration. So it's awesome to see so many people from so many different views of the elephant together, because if you can understand, a startup can understand a VC view, or a startup can understand a service provider view, or a service provider view can understand a VC view, a university can understand a VC view, or a service provider view, will all be on a more found basic frequency, a frequency that we don't have to keep translating between each other. So I think that's very important. I'm based in Gurgaon. We have a $50 million fund. This is sort of this is the stuff we live and breathe. It's IoT, it's mobile apps, it's how do we leverage what's coming with 4G and what the service providers are delivering. I'll give you a very quick story to end this, to give you a little bit of just a beautiful story. I was in the US, beautiful 4G network, maps. I get to India, and I felt my phone was broken. I took it to Airtel, and they said it's working, it's just slow. I was very disappointed. We're about 8 years behind in terms of 4G release from the US. 4G release is going to change the game, I can assure you, in India. The second thing is, I was in the US, sitting in my home. I had a 6 meg connection coming in, meaning working 6 meg connection. I came to India. I was out for 2 months. I came back. Airtel had installed an 18 meg fiber connection in my home, and it was awesome. And that's an example of, we've already leapfrogged what I have in Ohio. So it's very, very important. Again, I would say the fundamental issue is learn, collaborate, discuss. Startups should understand valuations. Why do we make certain investments? Why do we reject other investments? What is the Indian Angel Network doing? What's their thesis? Why do they like certain companies? Why do we like other companies? What are telecom operators looking for? So that will help everybody to achieve your own individual outcomes, whether you're a university or whether you're a government agency or whether you're an angel investor or a VC fund or whatever it may be. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to the pitches.
Nowadays in 5 rupees or 10 rupees packs are available. But just I got
I just want to say one thing to this. India is still regarded as a third world country. That's a very old Cold War term, third world. It has to deal with poverty. We have to address 2 items with technology can help address those items. We have to use technology in healthcare. We also have to use we also have to use technology as it relates to healthcare, but also in education. These are 2 very important areas.